Hello friends! Today, let's listen to the story about the teacher's way. In a bright and cheerful school, three friends, Dev, Neil and Sana, studied in the same class. They sat together, played together, but there was one thing they often did. They argued and tried to prove who was better. One day, during recess, Dev and Neil got into a heated argument. "I'm stronger than you," Dev said, pushing a ball too hard across the playground. "No, you're just careless," Neil replied, grabbing it roughly. In the middle of their argument, they accidentally knocked over a small plant near the classroom window. The soil spilled and the tiny plant bent to one side. Sana quickly rushed forward and gently picked it up. "Careful now, you'll damage it," she said, trying to fix the soil. Just then, the teacher walked in and saw everything. She looked at the fallen plant, then at Dev and Neil. "You both have a lot of energy," she said calmly, "but you don't seem to understand how to care for things properly." Dev and Neil fell silent. The teacher then smiled and said, "Maybe it's time you learn something important." The next day, the teacher walked into the classroom holding two small pots, each with a tiny green plant. She placed them on the table and looked at Dev and Neil. "These are for both of you," she said. "You need to learn how to take care of something with patience." Dev and Neil looked at each other, surprised. Just then, the teacher turned to Sana and said, "Sana, I want you to observe them and help them if needed. Take care of these plants for 1 month," the teacher continued. "After that, we will see how well you have done." Dev immediately said, "My plant will grow the biggest." Neil replied to that, "Mine will be the best. You just wait and watch." Sana quietly smiled. Days passed. Dev loved showing off his plant. He would place it in the balcony and say, "Look how tall it's going to grow." But in all the excitement, he often forgot to water it regularly. Neil tried many different things. One day, he added extra fertilizer. Another day, he kept moving the plant from one place to another, trying new ideas again and again. But he never followed a steady routine. Sana watched them both. One day, she gently said, "Maybe you should just water it daily and keep it in one place." But Dev laughed. "Ha ha ha, it's fine. I know what I'm doing." Neil said, "I'm experimenting. That's how things grow faster." Sana did not argue. She simply continued to check on the plants quietly whenever she could, making sure they weren't completely neglected. After 2 weeks, the difference became clear. Dev's plant had grown tall, but it was weak and bending. Neil's plant had many leaves, but some were dry and turning yellow. Neil asked Sana for guidance, and she advised him. Surprisingly, Neil followed her instructions well and watered the plant carefully, kept it in one sunny spot, and followed her simple but helpful advice. Slowly, the plant started to grow strong and healthy. The teacher asked them to bring the pots to school after a month. When Dev and Neil brought their pots to school, the teacher carefully examined both plants. She looked at Dev's plant first. "It's tall, but it's weak," she said. "What happened here?" Dev scratched his head. I thought I was doing everything right, but it doesn't look strong." Then she looked at Neil's plant. this one. Ha! This one is healthy, strong, and full of green leaves. Neil, you followed Sana's guidance well, didn't you? Neil nodded proudly. Yes, I listened to Sana and took care of it every day. The teacher smiled. See the difference, Dave? Just being excited or trying too many things at once does not help. Growth comes from patience, steady care, and listening to advice. Dave looked at his plant, then at Neil's, and finally at Sana. I understand now. I should have taken it slow and followed your advice, he said. Sana gently smiled. It's okay, Dave. You can still learn. The plant isn't gone. You just need to care for it properly from now on. From that day on, Dave became more careful with his plant. Neil continued following Sana's advice, and both the boys learned a valuable lesson. They stopped arguing over small things and started helping each other instead. By the end of the month, both the plants were growing steadily, green and healthy. And just like the plants, the three friends grew too, learning patience, responsibility, and the value of guidance. The moral of the story is, true growth comes from patience, steady effort, and listening to guidance, not shortcuts, carelessness, or showing off. Sai Hira Bal.